Alright, just kind of an off-the-cuff video here, just kind of an unedited video. I'm not even gonna cut this, just gonna upload it in its entirety. Maybe with some Kevin MacLeod music in the background for atmosphere, because I kind of miss when I used to put Kevin MacLeod or other public domain shit in my videos. Man, that was the times. I often have people ask me, what's your advice for budding new artists? What's your advice for people who are looking to get into the industry? And that's an interesting question, so I might make some videos about it. I don't know, I've abstained from it for quite some time, because this is the thing. Much the same way there are videos these days about how it's impossible to learn how to be an influencer. Super Eye Patch Wolf made one where he's like, you know, just because Ninja made a big splash in the influencing scene 3 years ago, that's completely irrelevant now because the landscape has shifted so much. You know, the internet has changed so much in that time that you really can't learn how to be the top gamer or the top influencer or whatever. It's kind of that way for art. I think art is an industry which really rejects technique on a kind of innate level, and it also kind of rejects any sort of explanation that you might try to apply to it. So that's why I've been kind of a long time off in offering up my own advice as to how you should approach art, because it really is just the kind of industry that requires a lot of intuition, a lot of understanding of the current scene, a lot of adaptability, as it were. That's another important thing. The ability to adapt to the current climate. At the same time, I don't think art really works if you sell yourself out. That's why I'm not in graphic design. Now, technique can be helpful in the field of graphic design. If you're working for a company and they want you to make a logo or something that'll sell as much as possible, in that case, you know, you might be a little more interested in technique. But if we're talking in terms of pure artistic merit, then I think the most important thing you can do is completely avoid technique and avoid art school. I've never been to art school, and I'm proud of it. I'm entirely self-taught. What that means is I've been drawing comics from an extremely young age, since I was around 3. And that's the only way you can develop a recognizable and visually striking style. People see a Nicholas comic and they go, hot shit, that's a Nicholas comic. That isn't anyone else's comic. That's a Nicholas comic, you know? And the only way to do that is to do it for a really long time. Now, I will admit that my work has evolved, but I don't put effort into forcing it to evolve. I allow it to evolve naturally as new influences and new inspirations and new ideas come to me. So really the only way to self-teach yourself is to go at it for a really long time. And that might not be for everyone. Say you don't have enough time in the day. Well, if you want to dedicate yourself to art, if you want to make art your life, if you want to completely recklessly abandon yourself to the creative process, and I'm afraid that is a sacrifice you're going to have to make, and you might have to quit your shift at Burger King and pick up the paintbrush, but it is a rewarding thing in the end. Now, people have often discouraged me. I've had to deal with it. This is the main thing. If you want to succeed in art, you can't listen to anyone who's telling you that your art's shit or whatever. I've had people be like, Nicholas, I know that you want to be a cartoonist, but maybe you should work at Burger King until it really takes off. And I'm like, you know, fuck that. I'm gonna draw. And if you don't like it, you can shove it. And that's just the approach I take to life. Complete indifference and self-confidence to an almost caricature. Oh, sorry about that. I stutter. Editing. Is someone following me? Type down in the comments, is someone following me? I'm distracted. Self-confidence, to an almost caricaturish extent, is an important trait that an artist can have. You can only really present yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about if you talk in a snarky voice nonstop, much like how, you know, the best artists did. I cannot really imagine technique working for like really good artists. The best artists I've seen, from what I can tell, were entirely self-taught, and many of the worst artists I've ever seen rely so heavily on technique that it's not even funny, and their art has barely anything going for it. There's a certain cartoonist in the regional area, let's just say, who I'm not too fond of. Might make a video on him eventually, but I feel kind of mean-spirited to do so. But let's just say I'm not a big fan of his work, and I don't really find that much in it, let's just say. Oh man. Cartoonist beef, that's not what you came here for. First and foremost, I'd have to mention that every art teacher I ever had, like in school, they were all assholes. From 3rd grade, I had an art teacher who refused to give anyone a normal pencil with a normal eraser, and he only had these really shitty pencils, the art pencils or whatever they're called, without the erasers, so if you made a mistake, you just had to accept it. And I was like, fuck that. But she's like, it's an art pencil, it's a special technique. Yeah, that teacher was a real moron. I had one teacher in high school. She was a complete bitch, had no respect for the artistic process, talked down to me because of my autism. Just a real dipshit through and through. No inspiration to be had there. Now, I don't know if art schools are like that, or if it just so happens that in public school, the art teachers happen to be incompetent, completely unqualified morons, have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to technique or really anything related to art. But like I said, I think art schools are kind of an oxymoron in that you can't learn how to draw good, you can't learn how to paint good, because as everyone says, art is subjective, and if art is subjective, then how can you learn how to paint good? You know? Now, I don't believe that art is subjective. I'm a firm believer in objectivity, and I think some art, objectively, is shit. But more often than not, I think the art that's objectively shit comes out of art schools. And, they have a belief that there are certain things you can do to make your brush strokes better, or certain things you can do to make your pencil strokes better. And it's like, no. If you have an imagination, and you have good hand-eye coordination, and you have the ability to visualize things inside your head, you can translate that onto paper pretty well and pretty effectively. It's not that difficult. The main problem is that a lot of people aren't willing to put in the effort and the time and really take it to the next level and get it out there. But extremely creative people just have to. It's a way of life. It's unavoidable. Drawing for me is like breathing. I could not avoid doing it for more than a day. I draw every single day. I write every single day. I record shit every single day. It's just pathological with me, Anyway, like I said, most of the best artists who I respect, as far as I know, never really went to art school, or certainly don't brag about it or like the technique or anything. This is certainly the case with a lot of movements I'm really heavily into, like Dadaism, I mean, can you imagine, Man Ray teaching a course? What would that even be? Man Ray just does whatever the fuck he wants. And good on him, Man Ray's a fucking legend. Seriously, check out Man Ray if you want a good idea of, how to make some great pieces. I don't know. What kind of art do you like? I will say this, you should diversify your tastes as much as possible. If you just look at, arcane shit, League of Legends artwork, you look at the fucking pixel art, check out some Man Ray or something. And, on the flip side, if you only look at Man Ray, check out some newer shit. Look at some Andy Warhol, look at some Basquiat, as much as possible. It's good to have a wide range. Every so often, I just go to art conventions and just go from table to table, look at each artist and go, wow, their influences in this, what prints you got. I have a bunch of prints just because I respect artists so much, and I just go around and I'm like, hey, this is a cool print. Hey, this is a cool piece, Diversify your taste. There's a good idea. I have more advice. I have more thoughts. No cuts in this. It's a beautiful night out here. City Park. Hey, there's zoo lights. Didn't know they still did those. What else? Like I said, don't get too bogged down, because there's always going to be someone who tells you that your art's shit, but you just have to overcome that. You just have to push through it. I certainly have. And at this point, if anyone tells me my art is shit, I'll just be like, go suck it. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. A lot of people have told me to draw inspiration from the worst sources possible. Someone's like, why don't you use SpongeBob as an inspiration? Why don't you use John Kay, the creator of Ren and Stimpy, as an inspiration? And it's like, oh yeah, that fucking convicted pedophile? Yeah, why not use him as an inspiration? I'm like, fuck that. I'll use real cartoonists like Elsie Chrysler Seeger. Most people have never even fucking heard of. Way better inspiration than Stephen Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob. This is another piece of advice I'd give to any aspiring young artists out there. In order to be artistic, you have to be countercultural. You have to go against the grain. And what this means is rejecting extremely popular things that are so overplayed that they border on being redundant, like the Beatles or SpongeBob. I dunk on these two regularly. I dunk on the Beatles and I dunk on SpongeBob. One of my favorite bands, The Residents, dunked on the Beatles all the way back in the 70s, before it was even cool. But I think the cover of Meet the Residents is one of the best album covers of all time, just on the basis of how subversive it is and how new a thing it was back then to dunk on the Beatles, because they were all popular. But the Residents come in and they're like, screw the Beatles. And that's a real statement, that's a real valuable piece of art. I don't know if the Residents were trying to do that, but I mean, come on, look at the cover of Meet the Residents. It's obviously like taking a massive shit on the Beatles. So that's one thing you can do to try and up your artistic game as much as possible, is kind of go against the grain. I'm not saying hate on everything that's popular, because if you do that, you are a hipster. And a lot of people have accused me of being a hipster. All I'm saying is if you just post SpongeBob memes, you're not that interesting. I post college buddies memes because I respect the potential of my own properties, and I could give less of a shit about what Stephen Hillenburg cooked up or what John Kay cooked up, because I didn't watch Nickelodeon when I was young. I read comics, like real comics by like Wally Wood and Robert Crumb, and I think I'm a lot better for it, or a lot worse, depending on how you look at it. I mean, make your own conclusions, Anyway, that's really my only advice for artists. I don't think there's any technique. I think technique is kind of a myth. And the debate will go on over whether, intuition or technique is the correct approach. But I would say that if you just sit down in a room with some ink and paper or a paint set and paper for 2 hours, and you don't leave that room, don't do anything else, turn your computer off, maybe have some nice music to listen to, and you just apply yourself, and you just go, I'm not going to leave until I've made something worth looking at. But at the end of that 2 hours, or whatever time period you set yourself to, you will have something interesting to look at. Much like writing a novel, or setting any deadline for yourself, really, you should always pace yourself, know your own limits, but so long as you say to yourself, I'm going to do this, you can do it. It's not that difficult to draw or whatever, and the more you do it, the better you'll be at it. But I don't think you should force yourself to be better at the same time. I hear a lot about this toxic mindset these days. Oh, you should always be trying to improve. You should always try and one-up yourself and make something better and better and better. And I disagree with that, really. I think that, improvement will come to you naturally, gradually over time. Like I said, my work today is very different from college buddies. But I respect college buddies as much as I do my present work, because both are reflective of where I was at the given time that I made each piece. And, that's valuable to see the evolution of something and value each phase of your evolution as its own thing, instead of just assuming that the next thing will be better and the next thing after that will be better than that. I think that's kind of a ludicrous approach, and you should just make whatever you feel like. It doesn't always have to be the best thing. You can just make something that is fun for you and makes you happy and seems worth your while. Not the best thing. Not everything needs to be a masterpiece. People need digestible, easy entertainment. People need stuff that's just fun. Not mindless like SpongeBob or something, but not like, crazy advanced. Sometimes people just want something that's great to consume. And I think art should do that. I think art will be adopted a lot more if it goes kind of a populist route and loses some of its intellectual snobbery and kind of is more like, giving a voice to the people. Vox Populi, I think that's an important thing, to kind of destigmatize art and deconstruct it and make it a more approachable thing. And I think that by, kind of doing that yourself and becoming familiar with it, familiarizing yourself with it, you can do that. You can overcome a fear of art. And you have to stop recording soon here because my hand is becoming numb. It's like 10 degrees or something. Anyway, so that's really my advice for artists tonight. I might do another one of these videos. I do find it kind of interesting, the world of art and where it's going, and I think, with my own experience in the field, it's at least worth discussing, even if, like I said, I really don't have any crazy commentary about technique or whatever to share, as it were. Oh, darn. What's up with that car? Weird. Anyway, that's about it for this episode, or whatever it is. I don't know. Are they gonna cross or? Look at this. How's this intersection work? Both lights are green at the same time. How the heck does that work? I don't even know. Anyway, just some thoughts, just some feels, just some basic ideas. SpongeBob can go to hell. Little bastard. Little sponge bastard. I hope he gets a parasite infestation. Anyway, that'll do it for tonight. That's about it. Hope this was helpful in some way. And I'm just gonna upload this onto the interwebs. Stick it.